Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another live this morning. Hope you're having a great start to your day. And we certainly are here. And we'll say hello to a few friends as you come on this morning. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see who's going to be number uno this morning. Mike and Andrea, Niagara Falls. And John, how are you? Elgin, Illinois. Donna. And Brahim. Brahim, you came in 5th place. Madeleine, how are you? Kippawa, Quebec, bonjour. Rosalinda, Niagara Falls, how are you? Bonnie, good morning. From London, France, Orangeville. Kevin, there he is, from Oshawa. And Nick from our staff. Sandy from Vancouver, Washington. Carol, West Virginia. Wendy, Markham. Tina, good morning from Nova Scotia. Donna from Bell Valley. And Vanda, how are you? Jeanette, bonjour. Lise, how are you? And, oh, come on, I miss that Manitoulin. Who was that? Linda, Waterloo. Diane, Thunder Bay. And Mississauga, I can't see it. And I can't see that one. I think it's Georgie from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Jeanette, Nellie, how are you? And Teresa, Donna, and Laurie, how are you? Alberta. And yeah, it gets into the clouds, guys. I can't see it. Leela. And maybe I'm standing too. No, I don't know. Stouffville, who was that? Melika? Kristen? Saskatchewan? Olive? Oregon, good morning. Veronica, good morning. Keith, good to have you on with us. Carol, Moncton, New Brunswick. Gary, Bolton. Donna, Newfoundland. Carol from Mount Pearl, Newfoundland. Sue, Manitoulin Island. Was that you, Sue? Nicole, Quebec, bonjour. Shirley, Twin Gate, Newfoundland. John, how are you? Meta, how are you? Yvonne, Petawawa. Judy is in the clouds. And someone else just went in there too. Hey, Nativity, how are you? Cheryl, how is ya? Arlene, good morning to ya. And Lori, Cambridge. And Catherine, Parksville, British Columbia. Marianne from London. 2 more. Sue, saying hi to everybody else. Elaine, good morning. And Shannon from Louisiana. Barbara, how are you? Dorothy. Okay, now, I want to read a headline to you, then we're going to talk about this morning, okay? Here's the headline. A-Fib, atrial fibrillation, is 3 times more prevalent today than it was just a few years ago. Okay? Atrial fibrillation. That's when the heartbeat goes out of whack. And it makes you much more susceptible to a stroke. And some of the risk factors are having high blood pressure, having coronary artery disease, even to start off with, obesity. These are all risk factors for atrial fibrillation. But I want to break this down even more than that, because I want to bring you my clinical experience with A-Fib. Okay? And I think you'll find it interesting because I, in my clinic days, used to look for deficiencies. Okay? What are you deficient in? And when it came to patients who had atrial fibrillation, and they often were put on a blood thinner, keep their blood thin to avoid a stroke. But that was the medical treatment. What I was interested in was patients, and they had certain things that were pretty consistent with atrial fib. Okay? And this is almost invariably, not always, but almost invariably. Okay? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about atrial fibrillation because it's so much more prevalent today, according to the news, than it used to be. And I think I know why. I think I know why. Okay? So let's go just through deficiencies. Here's what I found. Okay? Generally. One, atrial fib patients were generally low in magnesium. They were low in magnesium. And today, in our soil, in our food, we get very little magnesium. And magnesium is important for a lot of things. Probably does about 300 things in your body. But one thing it does, it really helps, is with your heartbeat. Magnesium is very important for the heart, for the cardiovascular system. And people today walk around and there's no little light on their heads that are flashing, unfortunately, really telling them that they're low in magnesium. Nobody tells them that. And unfortunately, when you take a blood test, it's hard to detect. I'll tell you why. Because in the blood, magnesium in the blood, it's important, but it's not the most important. Most of magnesium is found in your tissue, not your blood. It's in your tissue, not your blood. And so it's very hard to measure. But if you're stressed, you lose magnesium. And in our diets, it's not in the soil anymore. It really isn't. So, you talk about eating certain foods to give you magnesium. There's rarely very little magnesium in that. And it's one of the reasons I talk about supplementing all the time. Okay? So that's number one. What I found in the office, people were low in magnesium. Two, they were very low in CoQ10. CoQ10. One of the biggest problems in our world today, because we have bought the lie of cholesterol, the cholesterol derangement syndrome has downriver lots of effects. Okay? Because people have this idea, I heard it in the hospital recently about 10 times. Get your cholesterol down, get your cholesterol down, get your cholesterol down. Cholesterol. And what we call it at the Martin Clinic is the cholesterol derangement syndrome, CDS. But that has had a major effect in North America, a major effect. You know what it has done? The cholesterol derangement syndrome is one of the biggest causes of atrial fibrillation. Why is that? Because people have gotten away from eating eggs, meat, and cheese, especially meat. They're not eating enough. The food pyramid has been turned upside down because of cholesterol derangement syndrome, and they don't want you to eat animal foods, animal fats like butter. And even in the hospital, there's still margarine in there. You want to give me a migraine? They still, here we are in 2024, and they still have the cholesterol derangement syndrome, and it's causing downriver. It's causing problems like atrial fibrillation because people, they believe it. Well, my doctor said, my cardiologist said, my dietitian said, I have to get my cholesterol down. Here's a drug and here's food that you shouldn't eat or eat very little of it. I got to tell you this story. A patient is anemic in the hospital, anemia. And they have low ferritin, low iron. And the doctor, I'm quoting, says to this patient, I hesitate to tell you to eat red meat because I know it's not good for you, but you need red meat to get your iron up. But I hesitate to tell you that. I heard it with my own ears. I can't get over it. They buy the lie of cholesterol. So they say, well, I hesitate to tell you, but if you really want to get your iron up, you need heme iron. She didn't say it, heme iron. I was saying it in my head because it's only found in steak. Heme iron. People are walking around today, they look like Casper the Ghost. They got no blood. They're sucking for air. And they got cholesterol derangement syndrome. And I don't blame the layperson. I don't. It's preached 24 hours a day. And downriver, we got a big problem, Houston. You know what we got? We got a big problem of atrial fib that's gone way up. Your heart is a muscle. Only your brain has more mitochondria, battery packs, than your heart. Your brain has more. It's the energy center. 25% of all your food, the brain is like the federal government. It says, you pay me first. Pay your taxes. 25% brain, mitochondria, energy center. But your heart has tens of thousands of mitochondria looking for energy. They're looking for the right food. And we don't give it to them. We don't give it to them. Your body is screaming for red meat. Give me red meat. Why? CoQ10. I need CoQ10 to function properly. The mitochondria, the battery packs, they'll work, but they don't work properly without it. Ubiquinol. But you see, you can eat steak, but they don't want you to eat steak. They don't want you to eat eggs, or very few. They don't want you to eat butter. They don't want you to eat cheese. Guys, the world's upside down nutritionally, and look what we got. You know, if everybody was healthy, I'd be out of business. They'd say, would you get that guy off his podcast? He's crazier than a hoot owl. Of course, they say it anyways. I wish I was wrong. But I'm not wrong. Atrial fib is a slap in the face. Is a slap in the face to the dietitians out there. A-Fib is a slap in the face to the cardiologists out there. A-Fib is a slap in the face to the doctors out there who take about 30 seconds of nutrition. I hesitate to tell you to eat red meat. I hesitate because I know it's no good for you, but you need it to get your iron up. Oh. I wanted to scream. It took me everything. Shut up. I had to tell myself to shut up. Shut up. Don't say anything. I remember a patient one time said, "Doc, why aren't you talking to me?" I said, "You're not listening. This is the third time you've come to see me, and you haven't implemented any of my eating plans. You're not listening. Now I don't talk anymore. I told you what to do. You was hoping I'd give you a little pill. No, I wanted you to start with food. You're on the Titanic and you're not listening. Do you know that the night the Titanic went down, the band was still playing? And there were people still dancing. And they already hit the iceberg. The music was drowning out the screams. People were still dancing. People have atrial fib and, oh well. We got heart disease coming out our ears. Low in magnesium, low in CoQ10. And really, they're really low in the 5 C's. Creatine, L-carnitine, L-carnosine, CoQ10. Those C's that you get from steak. I hear these muscle builders, and they love creatine. Okay? Me too. I like creatine. I've been talking about it for years. So when you eat a steak, you get creatine. It's in steak. Why would that be bad for you? It's in hamburger. Why would that be bad for you? Leave the bun aside. Eat the hamburger and put cheese on it. You want creatine? Carnosine? Do you? L-arginine? All of it. It's in steak. That's why it's one of the biggest reasons, because we've got cholesterol derangement syndrome and it's gone downstream and it's affected the heart. They think by lowering cholesterol, you're going to help your heart. You're making it worse. You're making it worse. You want to eat cholesterol. It's in the animal kingdom. Almost invariably, people that get atrial fib have insulin resistance. Their A1C is over 5.4. They have insulin resistance. Almost invariably, I've seen very few exceptions to that. And they don't have to be big. They can be skinny as a rake and have high A1C insulin resistance. Their cells don't like the presence of insulin and they resist it. They have metabolic syndrome, along with 93% of the population. Atrial fib, dangerous. Low magnesium, low CoQ10, insulin resistance, almost invariably. I saw very few exceptions to it. They were low in B12. Low in B12. Oh. I talked to a doctor the other day about B12. I might as well have been talking to the wall. They knew nothing about it. I said, well, do you know anything about medical history? Do you know that almost every doctor in the 1950s, 1960s, almost every one of them, it was their go-to. What? B12 was their go-to. If you were tired, you got a B12 shot. If you had anything, they gave you a B12 shot. Now today, what? B12. What? Because they don't even test for it. And when they do, oh, it's normal. But the B12 test is 100 years old. Give it a birthday party and send it into retirement. They don't even know anything about optimized B12. But again, B12, it's fallen by the wayside. Why is that? Because, you know what, it's not a, we know it's an essential vitamin, but doctors today, they used to learn that. They learned that the first day in medical school. Give a patient lethargic, any energy issues at all, anemia, anything. Give them B12. They don't do it anymore. They don't do it anymore. And when I saw patients with A-Fib, guess what? They were low in B12. Nothing works properly without B12. From your brain to your toes. I'm not that big on, people say, Doc, what about B vitamins? Yeah, what about them? I like them. Eat your steak, you'll get B vitamins. You'll get all of them. What? You'll get all of them. But the king of the castle is B12, because without B12, and it's a finicky vitamin at the best of times, it's a large molecular structure. Your body, it's at the best of times, it's got trouble with B12. That's why most people are walking around and they think they're B12. They don't even think. Nobody's even told them. Your brain, your heart, your nerves, any medication at all, any medication that you're taking, even over the counter, will take away your B12 out of your body. Any digestive trouble at all, and you're not absorbing B12 properly. And when I used to test for B12, okay, I think it's safe to say that 90-something%, probably the same percent that had metabolic syndrome, had low levels of B12. They weren't optimized at all. They said, well, you want to optimize B12. And I was, people brought me in their blood work. I was looking at the old-fashioned test. It should have been between about 800 to 1200. And Very few people were in that range. Very few. I said, well, you're sucking for air, man. Your hemoglobin, your red blood cells, all of those things don't work well without B12. And A-Fib, they were low in B12. And guess what goes with B12? Guess what goes with it? The go-to with it. Vitamin D. Is there anything vitamin D isn't good for? But people are low in vitamin D. They don't even look. You almost have to bring a physician, okay? Almost. Bring a physician to a dentist and get teeth pulled without anesthetic in order for them to order a vitamin D test. They just don't see it. They don't read. My word, I bet you just yesterday I read 5 new studies on the importance of vitamin D. They want you to stay out of the sun. And guess what? I don't know if you guys believe in climate change, but we got climate change in Northern Ontario. The climate changed. It's fall. It's cold. And the sun came out yesterday, but you ain't skinny dipping. Are you? It was cold. It's time to supplement. You need vitamin D. Everybody needs vitamin D. And here's medicine. Oh, you could get too much vitamin D, you know. You can overdose on vitamin D, you know. They've never seen a case, but you can overdose on vitamin D. And it's in their craw. It's in this. It's so hard to change thinking. Have you ever seen a case of I know why you're here. You're dying. You got too much vitamin D in you. Nope. But it doesn't matter. It's a narrative. And that's why they don't even want to test it. What's that got to do with anything? Your bones are all right. What do you want to get a vitamin D test for? How about my immune system? How about for cancer? How about for atrial fib? How about for my heart? How about for my brain? That's why I want to get vitamin D tested. And I'm telling you something. I'm going to tell you something right now. I think I'm right. 95% of the no, more than that, 99% of the population have no idea what their vitamin D levels are in their bloodstream. They wouldn't know. Nobody's talked to them about it. Nobody, they don't get tested for it. 99%. It's probably 80% for B12. They don't know because nobody talks to them about it. But they might have had it tested. With vitamin D, good luck. If there is a biomarker that should be tested, when you go to a doctor, right? Probably without exception, they take your blood pressure. Right? That's a good thing. Hey, doc, you're taking my blood pressure. That's a good thing. Right? Well, vitamin D is every bit as important as your blood pressure, for heaven's sakes. It affects your blood pressure. But they don't know it. I've been preaching vitamin D for over 40 years. When people were telling you to get out of the sun, I was telling you to get in it. When they were talking about skin cancer, I was telling them just the opposite. If you don't get any sun, you're going to get the worst cancer, and that's the skin cancer called melanoma. Consistent. 100% consistent. I've never changed that. A-Fib. A dangerous arrhythmia. Dangerous. People today are doing the wrong thing. They don't know about it, and nobody's telling them. Eat more steak. Eat more cholesterol. Watch your B12. Watch your vitamin D. Insist on it. Insist on it. Anyway, am I going to change it? Probably not. But I want to educate you, my audience. I want to educate you, my audience. Okay. I'm breathing. Okay? I'm breathing, honest. Okay. What's Friday? Question and answer. Send your questions in, and I'll just put a note out again to make sure we get your questions. Martin Clinic, info@martinclinic.com. Send an email, info@martinclinic.com. You got a question, send it. We love to talk about it. Okay? We love to talk about it and answer your questions. Am I shy? Not even a bit. I don't care what question you ask me. I'll answer it to the best of my ability. Okay? I'm used to it. I had an open line radio show for 20 years. Okay? Open line, call, ask questions. It was very popular. Okay, we love you guys so dearly. We really do. Thanks for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for telling people about the Doctor Is In podcast. And we appreciate that big time. Love you dearly. Talk to you soon.